Hello, I'm Caleb Burress with Calerin Forge, and we're here for our part 3 of our Damascus making video. Here's our 160 layer billet, and we're going to heat this up and draw it out a little bit, and then we're going to use the guillotine fuller to create a notch where we'll draw our tang out, and we've actually got enough metal here to make a couple of knives, so we're going to cut it, and then we'll be rough forging the knife out. I'm thinking I want to do a little colonial style knife. I did one a while back and used a whitetail leg bone as the handle, and it turned out really nice, so I've got a hankering to do another one of those, so that's what we're going to be working on tonight. So we'll get started here, and I'll see you at the end. Next step is I'm going to use the guillotine fuller to notch in from both sides, separate a little piece of material that I'm going to use to draw out my tang. Now if you don't have a guillotine fuller, you can do this over the edge of the anvil just by hammering in and making a notch and turning it over and making a notch on the other side. I mean, you're not hindered if you don't have this. This just makes it a little easier. And the one I'm using is a homemade rig I made 30 years ago, so it's seen a lot of service, but it still works. So you don't have to have a real expensive tool. You just, I mean, it's a simple, basic design. There used to be the Blacksmith's Gazette was a really good publication that had plans to build a lot of the tools you'll need. I think they're out of print now, but you may be able to still find some of those online or something. But that's the pattern I used to make this one from, and like I say, I've used it for almost 30 years. So we'll separate the notch and draw the tang out, and then we'll cut what we want to make this particular knife, and we'll save the other piece for another knife later on. Anytime you pull the metal out of the fire and there's scale all over it, go ahead and brush it off. That's an opportunity to get rid of something you don't need in your makeup of your metal here. So what that does, that kind of forms the shoulders of what's going to be the base of your blade and gives you enough material to draw out to form your tang from. So we're going to heat it up now and start drawing the tang out. Alright, so there's our piece that we're going to actually form the blade of the knife out of. Doesn't look like much, but it doesn't take a whole lot if you think about how wide and how long and thin a knife blade is. As I've said in some of my earlier videos, the steel, just think of it like a big lump of clay, because it moves exactly the same way as like modeling clay does. So I actually use modeling clay to test out how to go about the steps to do some projects if it's something I've never done before. But we'll heat this up, and we're going to draw it out. We're going to compact it a little bit this way and draw it out to length, and then we'll form the point and form our distal taper in it. We're going to do most of the initial drawing out on the power hammer. So I'm going to get it up to heat, get it up to welding heat, just to make sure we don't have any delaminations once we start drawing it out. we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
You can see right there I've got a little bit of a fracture on trying to form my point. I let it get a little too thin before I tried to recapture my point, so that's something you need to watch out for. I'll have to cut that and then reform my point. But as you can see, we don't have much of a distal taper at this point, but the essential thing is that it's the same thickness on both edges. So we want to draw it out and keep it as even as we can, because we're actually going to put a counter bend in it and draw the edge down out of this. So and with these colonial style knives, they actually, it's almost like a kitchen knife shape. They've got a little more blade hanging down towards the edge. It's a little bit off center with the handle, which doesn't look like a modern knife, but after you've seen a few of them, it's got a really graceful shape to it. So I'm going to cut this and form my point, and then next time I'll show you how to counter bend this and draw the edge down, and how to finish it out. So let me heat it back up and we'll use the hot set on it. So as you can see, it's kind of naturally a little more material is shifted off to that side, so that's going to be my edge, and that's why I chose to cut the point at that angle, pointing that way. Again, we're pretty much the same thickness. We're going to draw this out by hand next time till we've got a nice distal taper. That really sets a hand forged knife apart, is the distal taper, where you've got the thickest point right where the handle meets the blade, and it tapers down to a point, and then we'll counter bend it and draw the edge down. There's quite a bit of work left to do yet, but it'll be worth it. We'll have a beautiful piece when we're done. Again, the power hammer makes this process quicker, but it in no means you can't do it by hand. I've been blacksmithing for almost 30 years, and I've only had the power hammer for about the last 3. So, and this is it's not my 3rd Damascus blade. So, so you can do it. Just takes a little elbow grease and determination, but you'll appreciate it more if you do it by hand. So, so for now, God bless and happy smithing.